Also, rewatch these live streams at any point. So I'm live on YouTube and Facebook. So if I'm looking at the camera down here, it's YouTube and Facebook. And then if I'm looking above the camera, it's because I'm just reading the Instagram comments. So we basically are on different devices. The reason I do like to be live on YouTube and Facebook as well is because I can do screen shares much more easily, and you can check that out if we need to do screen share for any reason. So the 30-day SEO challenge is based on a like paid course that I have. So if you did it last year, you might have been part of the course. The course has like tutorial videos for each day, and the tasks are a little bit more in depth and so on. But we're doing a light version of it on the Instagram grid, so anyone can join in, and you can check back on Instagram at any point if you are behind, or if you've got 15 minutes and you want to do something to help you increase your website visibility. So lots of people have been struggling with social media algorithms and feeling really frustrated by things like Instagram and TikTok and just what it feels like to be a content creator as well as running your business. So I'm getting more questions from people around SEO and how focusing on your website traffic and your organic visibility through search engines can help take a little bit of the pressure off when it comes to social media. So I thought that it would be a good thing for us to do together, to do this little 30-day challenge to help people sort of get to grips with some of the basics without it being really overwhelming. And you can kind of dip in and out as you want. So the first thing that we looked at was installing Google Search Console, and lots of people have already done that, which was amazing to see in the comments. We had a couple of people who also have not come across Google Search Console before, so hopefully you managed to get that set up okay. Even if you're not 100% sure how to use the dashboard yet, then it's fine. The main thing is that you're getting that data into your Google Search Console profile so that you can go back in time and see what results are coming up when people search for things, and get some of that really good quality keyword research data connected to your brand's visibility. So if you are wanting to have a little bit of a tour of the dashboard, you can check out my marketing freebie library, and there's about a 10-minute video that just gives you a tour of Google Search Console and what some of the main reports are. But that's just like a bit of extra homework if you want to, and if you're interested in how it works. So to explain the difference, because this did come up a couple of times in my DMs, the difference between analytics and Search Console. So Google Analytics is a tool that most of us are familiar with. It's definitely one of Google's best known tools when it comes to the sort of average business owner. Google Search Console was previously called Google's Webmaster tools, and it is a tool that has been historically used by developers and people who build websites to help understand how Google sees the website at a technical level and how it's presented to people who are searching for it at a sort of wider marketing level. So it got rebranded to Google Search Console, and it feels a lot more user-friendly. And as more and more people are using hosted platforms like Shopify and Squarespace, having access to Google Search Console is incredibly valuable when it comes to looking at your data and understanding how things like your mobile website are performing and things like that. So Google Search Console looks at the performance of your website and how Google sees it. If you think about other website search engines like Bing, or if you're in like China or Russia, there are other search engines that have the majority market share. Those have their own version of Google Search Console called Bing Webmaster Tools, I believe it is, and so on. And they help you to look at your website through the eyes of those search engines. But typically, if you're in a country where Google has the majority market share for search, you only really need to focus on Search Console, and the optimizations that you make within Search Console are going to help other search engines pick up what they need to as well. So Search Console looks at information that you can't access through Google Analytics, because Google Analytics is to do with how people interact with your website. So you can see where they came from, but you can't see anything that identifies their behavior beyond your website. You can only see the behavior that's actually on your website. So Google Search Console gives you insight for how your domain, which is, like for me, it's marketingwithmenekse.com, is being perceived by Google's index, and how people are being presented with it. So we call it like impressions. But if somebody searches for something like Shopify SEO or SEO for small business, and my website comes up in the search results, then that is an impression. And Google Search Console is going to tell me where my website has received an impression in the search results. And because of user privacy, you can't see that kind of information through Google Analytics unless you have set up both Google Search Console and Google Analytics, and those are connected. So you can see it in Google Search Console, but you have to, Google Analytics, sorry, but you have to set it up. So it's looking at two different parts of your user's experience and journey. So once that on your website, but also then the Search Console is like the pre-website bit. So hopefully that makes sense. Feel free to ping any other questions through if you have them related to Search Console. It is the tool that is just the most straightforward to use on a regular basis without having to pay any kind of monthly fee. There are like other SEO tools that are used widely with agencies and people who are marketing professionals. But in terms of like the average small business owner who isn't a professional marketer, you don't need to be paying for tools like SEMrush or Moz that have much, their whole basis is they make like SEO reporting and audits and things like that a little bit more straightforward to implement and to execute, but they're not worth the investment really when you are managing just your own website, because you can find everything that you need within Google Search Console. So there's more information on the specific parts of that in the video tour that I do of the dashboard, so you can check that out if you want to. Hi everyone, it's good to see you. Thank you for any comments that are coming through. It's really good to see you all, and there is more dedicated space to chat through any specific questions in just a few moments. So that was our first day, really, was making sure that that's set up, because then anything that you're doing as you go to improve your website, you're starting to be able to collect that data that you can go back and reuse at a later date. And being able to track your data is the best way to see whether your marketing is working or not. So one of the interesting things that has happened when I've been doing like my SEO program, students will go and check their metrics, and they'll look at things like their conversion rate from like Instagram, or their conversion rate from search traffic, and they'll see that actually their conversion rate of people who've come through Instagram is really, really, really low. It's like 0.5%. Their traffic that's coming through search or email or another source has got maybe a 3% conversion rate. And so it means that the visitors from that traffic source, the people who are coming via your emails, the people who are coming via organic search, for instance, might have a higher conversion rate than the people who are coming through Instagram. Now, the reason for that is because often with Instagram, we're using that as like a relational tool to keep in touch with people who already know about our brand. We're not always using it as a place to sell things, although we do. We're using it as more of a marketing tool for brand awareness. So it is normal to see a slightly lower conversion rate from Instagram, but it means that the effort that you spend in the short term isn't necessarily going to give you the return on investment when it comes to like the time and the resources that you're spending on it. So that's why our metrics are really helpful, and they take the emotions out of the decision-making process, and they just make it a lot easier for us to feel confident with our marketing and the way that we're using our time. So the second day was Google yourself. So we looked at how your brand is appearing in the search results at the minute by opening an incognito window and then searching for your business name and for your own name as well, if you're the business owner, just to get an understanding of how our businesses are appearing in the search results. So these are what are known as branded keywords. And so if somebody searches for your business name or searches for your name in the search engine results and in Google search page, it's because they already know about your brand. So what you're seeing is a brand awareness or reputation management activity where you might have been talking to somebody over on Instagram, or you might have been talking to somebody in your emails, sending out your newsletter. And people know about you and you're on their mind because of the wider marketing that you're doing for your business, but they go to Google to find their way to your website. So we've got Anna here from And Hope Designs, who's been commenting as well. But if somebody is talking to Anna on Instagram and then goes over to Google and searches for And Hope Designs, it's because they've already got knowledge of her business. So when we see branded searches happening and people are going to Google to search for our business, if someone goes to the Google search page and searches for Menekse Stewart or marketing with Menekse, it's usually because they have come across you elsewhere, and that is a sign that the rest of your marketing is working effectively. But it also is important because those people who are searching for you because they know about you already are more likely to be your existing customers or people that you've done some communication work with already. And we want to make sure that they find you easily because they're much more likely to take action when they get to your website and be engaged with what you have to say as a brand and be interested in the solutions that you have to offer to them. So when we are thinking through our like Google yourself activity, it's really to make sure that we have got as much visibility for our branded search so that we can continue to benefit from the marketing that we're doing elsewhere in our businesses. So hopefully that kind of explains that a little bit. We are going to talk a bit more about branded keywords as we go through the next few days. I keep saying few days, it's like a 30-day challenge or like, you know, a handful of days into it already. But we will be looking at that a little bit more as we think about optimizing your homepage and your about page for search. So we'll talk about them in a bit more detail then. But effectively, if I was to use an example here just for ease, marketing with Menekse or Menekse Stewart are both examples of branded keywords for my business, because if somebody searches for them, they're trying to find something related to me. In the same way as if you search for, you know, John Lewis or Tony and Guy or something like that, you are going to specifically look for that particular brand. You're not just looking for a random department store or a hairdresser. You're looking for something very specific because their marketing has stuck in your brain. So branded keywords are related to that. And then non-branded keywords would be something like Shopify SEO, which is related to another brand actually because of the platform Shopify, but that's maybe not a good example. Local hairdresser should have been the one that I defaulted to there. Or, you know, birthday cards or birthday card for children. Those are examples of unbranded search terms where people are looking for the solution or the product or the service or the type of shop. And they don't have a specific brand in mind. And so that is where the opportunity is with search engine optimization and SEO. But we want to make sure that we are keeping our brand search as the initial priority, then moving on to the unbranded search terms, because obviously unbranded search terms, it's like literally everything. There are so many things that you can focus on with that. So that was our Google yourself. And then the third day, we looked at social media and SEO. And we were having a conversation about Linktree and some of these third-party link tools. And I was quite vehement in my stories on Instagram and said that they are incredibly unhelpful, in my opinion, when it comes to your actual domain and your brand, because there's a few issues with them, and I do have an old IGTV which I'll update at a later point. But they're convenient, but they are a sort of landing page that is not connected to your domain. So if somebody clicks onto it, you can't then easily benefit from things like the average number of pages per session, because one of the pages has gone on to somebody else's domain, like link in bio or Linktree. Now, you will see platforms like Squarespace and Shopify starting to promote tools that they're connected to because of the popularity of something like Linktree. So they want to have something that is connected to them, where they can benefit from the user data and the number of people using that tool, because Linktree is popular, but it's kind of a reactive thing that they've developed rather than something that is needed or recommended for brands. And I talked about this a bit more in my Instagram comments, but the idea of a link page is really handy, but you always want to prioritize your own domain. So I always want to try and make sure that if I'm sending people somewhere, it's going to be to marketingwithmenekse.com, and that's where it's going to start, even if it's a page that I've built. Additionally to that, it's something that if people are then going to another site, a page on my website, they start on that page and then they click over to another page, and then maybe they click over onto another page. The reason that we want to focus on that is because Google Analytics and Google's ranking factors generally for search, they're looking at user engagement with your website and with your domain, and that is measured within the platforms that you control. So again, you know, all of these things I could talk about for like a whole afternoon because I'm a massive nerd. So when it comes to this is like the very top line summary, but I could go so deep in, and I'm resisting the urge because we have limited time for our Marketing Mondays. But the reason that they're being developed and recommended is because they, you know, Shopify, when they promote their tool to you, or the tool that they're affiliated with, they're probably assuming that you're already using Linktree. And so they want you to stop using Linktree and use something that they recommend. And they've made it as easy as possible for you to like link your products and things. It does have benefits for the end customer, because if you're doing something promotional and people have got a really easy way to get to the product page, then that's wonderful for the customer. They can find their way really easily. But the reason that they push them is not because they're good for your website or good for your SEO or good for your users experience more generally or your brand, but because these tech startups are based on, they get funding specifically based on like metrics like user engagement. So if we think about our businesses, if you're running an e-commerce website, for instance, the way that we like look at conversions is if somebody comes to our website and they make a purchase, that sale is a conversion for an e-commerce website. When you are working in tech and you're developing technology and platforms that are based on like user engagement and user experience, the conversion is how many people are registered, and then the metrics that those companies are looking at is like how many people are active users, how much traffic is going through those pages. And so they're actually able to get like literally tens of millions of pounds worth of like dollars worth of venture funding from venture capitalists based on the fact that you're using their product and traffic is going through it, and there's brand awareness being built for Link in Bio and Linktree and things like that, because you're sending your traffic through it. So they're able to benefit and, you know, go through all of the sort of tech entrepreneurial startup venture capital space stuff that is really like outrageous sums of money that are completely unimaginable based on user data and the fact that people's attention is being given to that product. So there's a monetary there's definitely a monetary sort of side to platforms like Squarespace and Shopify encouraging use of that. And it might be that they've helped to develop it, they've got shares in it. You know, it's all a big tech thing. And again, another topic that we could go down a wormhole on, but it is important for us to just understand when they promote these things to us, it's because they are set to benefit. Nobody's doing anything because they're nice. Nobody's doing something because it is like, you know, something that you can, that they're thinking, oh, you know, how can we make the business owners' lives easier? Like, yes, that will be part of it because you're part of the customer base, but actually what they are wanting to do is create a product themselves that meets a need and that they can then monetize and make money from, because that's how the internet works. So I just want to explain that super clearly, because the sort of motivation that we see behind some of these tools is not always completely understandable from a small business perspective. When it comes to making our lives easier, great for us to make choices on that. But there are both pros and cons to them. And so just making informed decisions is always what we want to do. And like, you might love Link in Bio and super, you know, go for it, but just use it in a way that you're like, I actually know what I know what I'm using. I know like why this has maybe been promoted. I know why it's convenient for me, and I might know why I'm choosing to use this for now, and what the alternatives are if I decide that actually this is no longer working for me and for my brand. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you've got any questions, fire them into the comments and we can spend some time answering those for the next few minutes. So we are only 3 days in. We've got another task landing today. I'm probably not going to post tasks on a Sunday, I've decided, just because it is a bit of a busy day in our house because of my husband's job. And it just means that we can all take a break from SEO on a Sunday for the next like 4 weeks. So if you have any follow-up questions or anything about the days that we've done so far, then give me a shout. And then otherwise, keep an eye out for today's task, which will be over on my Instagram grid later on this afternoon. So we had one question that came through that was to do with Google adverts and whether they are a good use of like funds for small business owners. So when it comes to advertising, are Google ads something that can help you get more traffic? The short answer is yes, they can. And when you're working with like a marketing agency on things like SEO, sometimes what they'll do is run like test advert campaigns with the keywords that you want to prioritize for organic search to get a sense of like how much traffic comes through them and what kind of impressions they get. So there's definitely like a correlation between how we use paid search marketing and then the decisions that we can make for free search marketing. But for a small business owner, what we are thinking through is how long it takes us to make our money back on advertising. And that for Google ads is there's typically a higher cost per meal, which is cost per thousand, for your adverts and for anything that you are running on Google ads, because the pay per click rates are higher. Sometimes that can mean that people's intent to purchase is higher, but there's just a lot more competition and it's on a bid basis. So it can be beneficial, but when we go into advertising, we want to assume that the first purchase that a customer makes is going to be a loss for us financially. And then we want to be focused on the lifetime value of the customer. So when we are doing paid advertising, whatever channel it's on, whether it's on Google ads or whether it's on Facebook and Instagram or TikTok or Pinterest or wherever you're paying for ads, we are always being mindful of the fact that we're not getting sales, we're getting customers. And so a customer and what a customer is worth to your business is the metric that you make decisions for advertising on, because if you do it only based on sales, it's very hard to break even. You can spend like a good rate for Facebook is that you make 3 times in sales what you spend on advertising, but that assumes that you're spending 35% of a sale. So say £10, it's going to cost you £3.50 to get that sale. And obviously from a margin point of view, especially when you're making to sell, that is a really small amount. But what happens is that person makes a purchase and then maybe they come back in a month and they make another purchase, and then maybe they come back 6 weeks after that and they make another purchase. The value of the customer is going to be £50, say, over the course of a year instead of £10. So you've spent £3.50 to get the customer, but actually they've gone on to spend £50 over the course of their life cycle in your business. So when you're running adverts, understanding the impact of your lifetime customer value is going to be a game changer for marketing confidently, expectations, and then just building sort of confidence around what it is actually achieving for your brand and for your business when you do that, because otherwise it can be quite an emotional space of like, am I wasting money when I run these ads? So that's just to kind of explain that question that came in. Google ads could work really well for your brand. You want to do some keyword research around the types of things that people are maybe searching for that you sell, and do some tests with different groups of keywords for that. But I would always have a budget that you know is just for testing. So you are saying, okay, I know that for the next £300, all I'm doing is testing out audiences. I'm not expecting to see a huge return on investment because I'm still getting to understand what my audience is looking for and who's going to respond to my adverts. Now, if you're working with an agency for your ads, they will often ask you to set a budget of like £2,000 for testing because you are able to do it much more comprehensively. But you can kind of see why there's a barrier to purchase there for a lot of people working with agencies and getting involved in ads, because £2,000 if you're a small business owner who makes to sell, and you're a designer maker or you're a craftsperson, is such a significant amount of money that it is often unimaginable to invest that and not see something like very definitive on the other side. So hopefully that makes sense, but feel free to send any follow-up questions. I'm just there's no comments or questions that have come through on Facebook or YouTube just yet, but I'm gonna just have a little look here. So yeah, Christine, I believe I've just like said your name and suddenly had a panic that I've like misremembered. I'm gonna blame my ADHD makes it so hard to remember people's names when I have thought actively about what their names are. But anyway, it happens all the time. And I was talking to like my friend Lucy recently. I went down to see her and we were talking, and I was just like looking at her as she was talking to me, and I was like, if I thought about it, I could have forgotten her name. And she's like literally one of my closest friends. Anyway, so yeah, can we use a bit.ly link to shorten in our profile? Yeah, so link shortening is different, obviously, than it being a totally different page. So you can definitely use a link shortener if you are wanting to do something that is unbranded. That will track an amount of like clicks that have come through, and you can potentially like I know Bitly gives you some metrics and things like that, but ultimately you're still able to see the traffic that is landing on your page. It will redirect it, but you should see that source link in your Google Analytics as well. If you're using a profile link, the top recommendation is that it's your domain with a / and then like links or something like that. And then that is going to give you the most like fail-safe option to track your, track your data, track your users, etc. Shortening links is fine. So some people will use a link shortener because they're putting like a link to a PDF in G Drive or something like that, and they just don't want a messy link, or they need to shorten it because it's too long for the box that Instagram gives you. But you can use it. You are going to have like a redirect situation, but there's the page that people actually land on is still your domain. And so when they land on that page and then go to like the next page of your website, so let's say they like for mine as an example, you can click on my links page, then you can see different options that might be related to like my podcast, or they might be related to like getting done for you SEO, or doing like a marketing one-to-one and booking like a one-to-one session. There's different options, and any of those that you click on is going to keep you on my website. So it's still marketingwithmenekse.com, which means that your average pages per session metric in Google Analytics is more accurate because it's measuring the actual pages that somebody is engaging with your brand. And if you have like a link in bio, that is their metric. They're seeing like users there, and then your site is registering their first click as the first point of interaction with your business. Hopefully that makes sense. Normally I would like do a graphic to visualize that because I feel like it's a bit more straightforward. Can you make a link page on a Shopify website? Yes, you can. You would set up a page on your pages and just do pages and then just call it links or something. You can actually exclude these pages from search results in your SEO settings because they're not really for people to find through organic search. They are a page that is like a functional thing, but they're not content driven. So it's not something that we would expect people to find through Google. You can go to your Shopify pages, set up a links page. And then what I've seen people do with Shopify is you can use images that look like buttons and then hyperlink the images. And that's one way to get around the fact that they are quite ugly. And the other thing that you can do is use a site like Upwork. I wouldn't recommend Fiverr if you're going for something where you want like a slightly better quality finish, but you could go on something like Upwork and set up a job for, a custom coded links landing page and get some proposals from people on Upwork. And you might be able to just get something that's like custom coded that you can use and that you're super happy with from a brand point of view. So that's one option that you can do with Shopify, just by getting somebody to do a one-off project for the CSS of the page to make it look a bit prettier. I love your new haircut from Coffee Unleashed. Thank you so much. It was slightly shorter than I was expecting, but this is it when I haven't like properly styled it or anything. And I think I'm like happy with it now that I'm a bit more used to it. So Leanne, is there anything you would recommend small businesses do to prepare for GA4 from an SEO perspective? Set it up. So yeah, setting it up is obviously something that you want to do sooner rather than later, just because it means that the data is starting to come in. From a tracking perspective, it's slightly harder for hosted platforms because like Squarespace and Shopify don't do events tracking as easily within it. We're starting to see that with GA4, the most effective way to track people's behavior is going to be by setting up Google Tag Manager. I will do a separate Marketing Monday that looks at this question in more detail, because it's something that we've talked about a little bit in my student community already. And it is making things more complex for small business owners, but it's making things slightly easier for like small to medium business owners, where there might be multiple staff members or people who are specifically dedicated to marketing and they're managing multiple channels. So it's unfortunate for micro and cottage industry businesses, which is what you're typically classed as if you are a maker, or if you're doing like make to sell designer maker stuff, just because of the like logistics surrounding your brand. But it makes it more difficult if you're a solopreneur, solo business owner, etc., because it's more work intensive to get it set up initially without having to go through like a whole load of tech jargon. But I am going to do some tutorials on it as well. Google is still showing an old meta description for my site. I've asked Google to recrawl several times and the description still hasn't changed. What am I doing wrong? So I would have a look at your site-wide settings. So sometimes with your meta descriptions, it might be pulling in from your site-wide SEO settings rather than the page settings. So if you have updated things on like your homepage, for instance, like WordPress is an example here, you can set your like meta description for your homepage, but then in your general, you've got settings that are for your site-wide settings. Same in Squarespace, where you've got page level stuff, but you've also then got like a global automatic thing. So the first thing I would do is just double check to make sure that that old meta description isn't hiding out somewhere, that it's being automatically pulled in. And then from a Google point of view, you can have a little look in Search Console and see if there are any errors on the page where Google's like unable to crawl it or see it, or if anything is getting flagged there. It might also depend on what the content is, because sometimes I've seen Google Search Console like show the correct metadata for the page, but the actual page that is shown in the search engine results has got like the last call to action bit cut off. If you are like more than a month into having changed it, then I would potentially see if you can contact like a member of support and see what happens with that. But it can take a few weeks for things to get updated. So don't feel like overly concerned if you're seeing things still not changed and it's been anything within like a 4-week period. Also, for some platforms, your sitemap, if you submit your sitemap, that's going to help to make a difference. You can do that within Search Console. But for instance, on Squarespace, Google will only crawl like your blog posts on Squarespace every 30 days. I think that's the default. So if you make an update and then you request a recall, but it's been within a 30-day period, like this, the pages just aren't going to get seen until the next time Google looks at those pages because of the information in your sitemap. So hopefully that makes sense. Depends how long it's been. Basically, anything under 4 weeks, it's not a huge concern because it can just take a little while to pick up changes that we make. Cool. Okay, awesome. Well, I think we've reached like just over the half-hour mark. I'm just gonna like wave at a few people. Hey, I do try to do that, but my phone is like a bit further away from me. As you can probably see, I've got my desk and my like, laptop in front of me. If you've got any like follow-up questions or anything, feel free to pop them into my little question box that's in my stories today, because I can record little videos and stuff for as we're going through the program and put them in stories. So if there's anything I can help with as you're looking at this stuff, I'm more than happy to point you in the direction of like where to find it. And we will be doing Marketing Mondays every Monday, or most Mondays. I'm going to try and do them every Monday, but if we miss a Monday, then it's probably just because I've like got a meeting or something that I wasn't able to change, and we might do it a little bit later. But Marketing Mondays are back, and the last time I was able to do them like really consistently was back in I think 2020, and we did quite a few, and there's some videos on like YouTube and the Facebook page that I hardly ever post to that have got the old Marketing Mondays, and there's one on like keyword research and a couple on SEO. So there's those that you can check out if you want to like be a little bit of a nerd for an afternoon, like 10-15 minutes looking at some of these different topics. And then they'll be back more regularly as well, and my podcast is coming back 2 now that my health is better. So if you want to get any more information about Google Search Console, do sign up for the freebie library if you haven't already. So yeah, has flagged that there is an issue with you don't get redirected after you've signed up. So you do need to check your emails for the password, but I am just about to go and fix that so that once you've signed up, you should get redirected to the right page with the password. And yeah, anything else you need, just give me a shout. Otherwise, I'll see you next week for Marketing Monday, if not before, in the 30-day SEO challenge. So have a good afternoon, everyone, and I'll catch you again on some channel somewhere soon.